Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. It is still hot outside, but it's time to start thinking about fall cool season vegetables. Also, figs can bring an exotic taste to your garden. That's just ahead on the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by Goodwin's Landscape and Garden Center in Germantown since 1943 and continuing to offer its plants for successful gardening with 7 greenhouses and 3 acres of plants, plus comprehensive landscape services. International Paper Foundation, the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Tom Mashore. Mr. Tom is a master gardener in Tipton County. And Mr. Bill Colbert is here. Mr. Bill is our local garden expert. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, so Mr. Tom, fall vegetables, it's that time of the year, right?
It's that time to start planting them.
Okay. Now you wanted to start out first by talking about soil.
Yeah, I like to start most of my plants in containers.
Okay.
And then transplant them into the garden. Like the summer or spring, we have such a short cool season in the spring that if you put the seeds directly like broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage and so forth into your garden at that time, there will be enough cool season for them to grow to maturity.
Right.
Same thing in the wintertime. We have such a short cool season in the fall that we want to start the plants up earlier. And I usually say this almost every time so people can get tired of it.
I know what it is that you're about to say.
Cool season plants and there's warm season plants. To my knowledge, there's no hot vegetable plants or cold vegetable plants. Some plants can tolerate it. Tomatoes can tolerate the heat, but they don't like it.
Okay.
Nor do I. And generally speaking, if it's comfortable to you, it's great for the plants, no matter if it's a cool season or warm season. Okay. If we get like 75 degrees. Now, like I said, I'd like to start everything in containers for several reasons. I'm starting off some really good growing medium. And I can control the watering and don't have to worry about dry spells in the garden, things walking over it, etc. And the 2 mixtures I use is the germinating mix and Pro Mix. And when I'm saying Pro Mix, I'm talking about the same stuff that nurseries use for growing their plants.
Okay.
And I reserve this, as you can see, the germinating mix is extremely fine, and I use that for extremely fine seeds like begonias and petunias. The seeds are very, very fine, and they're actually broadcast on top of the soil. Okay. Because they need light to germinate.
Right.
And then I cover them up with a clear dome to keep the soil moist and without disturbing the seeds. But for the rest of them, I use the Pro Mix, the same stuff that the nurseries use.
Right.
I'm going to plant 2 types of seeds. On this particular container here, I'm going to demonstrate planting onion seeds. Now, onion seeds is a monocot, meaning it puts out 1 leaf, as compared to like over here, I have squash plants. You notice the first 2 leaves, it puts out 2 leaves, and they call that a dicot.
Okay, that's right.
Okay, well, onion seeds, I don't need a big container to start those. So I'm just going to use this, and there's 54 cells in there, so if they all work out fine, I should end up with 54 onions. Okay. I'll be planting more, but for right now, that's what I'm going to start off with.
And that media, again, is your Pro Mix.
This is the Pro Mix, the same thing the nurseries use. Right. Usually available at any commercial nursery. It's not cheap, but it's a lot cheaper than the germinating mix.
Okay. And it works well, the Pro Mix.
It works absolutely well. Yes, it does. And like I said, it's basically one of the things for perfect conditions. Just like a baby, you need to give it to what it needs. Well, it's the same thing with here. I wonder if that's the reason why they call them nurseries. I don't know.
Never thought of that. How about that?
But
man, they really have those seeds in there, don't they?
Yeah. One of the things about onion seeds, they're not good keepers. They don't last long. It's very unusual if they last over a year, even if you have them in a freezer or a refrigerator. And they're small black seeds. Now, you do need a tool, a very specialized tool.
Yeah, those are small.
There's the seeds. And the specialized tool is called a dibble. If you start plants from the seed, you gotta have a dibble.
Gotta have it, huh?
Now, you can go on the internet and buy stainless steel ones with reversible tips and so forth, but this was, in its former life, a pin.
Right.
Now, I gave it a new life, at least on life, by using it as a dibble. It makes holes, you can make drills, you can lift plants up using this from the roots. It works great. And this is the more expensive one. It's got a protective cover on it. Now, on these seeds, most of your vegetable seeds, you're going to go to 1/4 inch.
Okay.
And I like to do is I like to plant 2 to a cup to double my insurance, at least get one up. Now I'm going down for 1/4, and that's a little blue tip right there. That's about 1/4 inch. That's all I have to go down. So I'll just make a little hole there, a little hole there. If you want to pre-moisten your planting medium so that when you make your hole, it doesn't collapse, and that will be the last time this thing sees water until they germinate. Drop 1, drop 2, go over here and over here, drop 1, drop 2. Now normally I don't cover the hole up until I get done because I have a tendency to forget where I finished. So by leaving the hole there, I know, okay, that one's been done. And then when I get them all done, then I go ahead and smooth out the holes and label it. Now you may remember what you put in there, but after a period of time you will forget, especially if you plant various varieties. And that's it. I'm just going to do those 3 because I'm going to repeat it 54 times.
All right.
Put the seeds back in there, in the wrong container actually. But because onions put out just that single leaf and one long root, I don't need a big container.
Okay.
And I'm going to cover that up. And I will finish planting these when I get home. Make sure you do label them with the date, what they are. This particular onion seed is called a Gran X, made famous by the Vidalia onion. Doesn't mean if you plant a Gran X, you're going to get a Vidalia onion, but that is the seed that they use.
All right.
Okay, on the, excuse me. On the begonias, excuse me, I said begonias, broccoli, thank you, thank you. Also 1/4 inch, not very much. Now, the plants get quite a bit bigger, and I want them to get fairly good size before I put them in the garden, so I'm planting them in bigger pots. Where do you get the pots at, by the way? Well, just let it be known that you need pots for starting plants, and they'll show up in your driveway, front of your garage, on your patio. If you got your back door open in your car, they'll find up in your back seat. But people don't want to throw things away, but they don't know what to do with them. When they found someone who would take it, they will recycle it. That's cool.
Those seeds are even smaller.
Yeah, and these are real small seeds. They're real tiny.
And we're going to get you to plant these quickly so we can talk about your grow light.
Oh, okay, sure. I'll just do one here.
Okay.
Again, 1/4 inch. 1 seed, 2 seed, 1 seed, 1 seed, 1/4 inch. And that's, you don't have to take a tape measure or measure it. That's just an approximate.
Okay.
If you want to get exact, then what you do is measure it 2.5 times the diameter of the seed. Okay, the grow light is real simple and easy to make. It costs approximately $25 to make. And you can move the chain up and down as the plants grow. And like I said, it's going to be for inside the house, which is comfortable for you. It's going to be comfortable for the plants. The plants will do well. Again, $25. Just a regular old shop light with fluorescent lights.
Okay.
And not the expensive type because they don't work any better than the regular shop lights, lamp bulbs.
How long would you keep your plantings down there, your little seedlings?
Until they're big enough to go outside, depending on the weather. For example, with tomatoes, you don't want to put them out there until they're frost-free.
Okay.
And from experience, I know that from putting the seed in, like on tomatoes, 6 weeks, and the plants will be ready to go out. So you don't want to plant them and start them up in January.
Sure.
You just want to back up, say the frost date is April 15th, back up 6 weeks would be about April the 1st.
All right then, Mr. Tom, we definitely appreciate the demonstration.
I appreciate talking about it.
All right. There are a number of gardening events going on in the next couple of weeks. Here are just a few that might interest you. All right, Mr. Bill, we have you here today. You are our local fig expert today. So we always get a lot of questions at the Extension office about figs. Let's start with this first question. What are the best variety of figs?
Best variety is according to what you're going to use the fig for.
How about that?
Figs come in a variety of sizes, colors, color on the inside of the encapsulated group of buds that
Okay.
you have. That is, some of them have a strawberry colored interior, some of them have a gray interior. Some of the ones that are really gray do not look as appetizing when you open the fig, but usually they're sweeter than the others, or at least that's my experience.
Okay.
The figs that we have in this area are quite different from the ones we have in the Southwest,
Okay.
which are basically Iberian Peninsula figs from the Spain, Portugal, that area. And all of the figs, the edible ones that we use, well, not completely all of them, but the vast majority of them are Mediterranean climate figs. So we have different growing conditions, have different sizes on the plants, and everybody talks about eating the fruit of the fig. That is, what you're eating actually is an encapsulation of the buds and blossoms of the figs. That inner part that turns so soft and sweet is actually the flower. The outer container is just that, a container of the buds and the flowers.
Interesting. Interesting. About that.
Figs are part of a family of plants that's one of the largest in the world. Not all of them, in fact, very few of them are actually edible in the wilds. I have a problem with the figs in the Southeast especially because they are a Mediterranean plant, and the Mediterranean is a hot, which figs require, but they're from a dry climate, and we are far from a dry.
Not dry.
You think of the humidity of the last few days. If you planted the wrong fig for our region, the figs will ferment on you real fast. And figs for our region should be the type of figs that have a smaller eye. Those of you that aren't familiar with figs, if you look at the bottom of the fig, the opposite of the stem section, there is an eye in the fig. The wider open that eye is, the more problems you're going to have with ants and things of that nature, and also more you're going to have a problem with the figs fermenting or running, and you can tell when it has done that. If you pay close attention, it becomes rather translucent. You can almost see down in the fig from the way it is. But we have a problem in the South because figs carry a lot of different names. And what you know this particular fig by and what I know may be completely different. Same thing, problem we have with field peas in the South. Everybody says purple hull. Well, there are a lot of varieties that have a purple hull.
Okay, I got you.
You've got to be more specific with
Okay.
it.
What about propagation, though? Let's hit propagation. for
Okay,
folks
well,
out there who don't know about that.
propagation, I looked at the Dixon handout earlier when I came in. Susie had given me a copy of it, and there are 5 different ways in theirs that they propagated them. The most successful method is layering. That is, taking a lower limb on an established plant, pull it to the ground and find where your contact's going to be. Dig a little trench out in the ground on that particular landing spot. Take the sharpened part of your pruners or a knife, and on the bottom of the limb, wound the bark on the plant there. I mean, a good strip out of it.
Okay.
Pin it into the trench, put a little dirt on top of it, and put a rock, a brick, or whatever will hold it in there. It's in contact with the ground, and let it stay there for the growing season. When you get ready, when you think it's growing properly, and it'll start leafing out and growing on its own, cut it free and let it stay in that spot for at least another month so that the roots will get out and dig it up, and you've got a stronger root system than you would have by taking cuttings and going through the process of put it in proper potting soil.
Okay. Well, let's talk about pests quickly. So any major pests or diseases?
The major pest that I'm having this year is the little black sugar ants that are almost microscopic. But if the fig has an open eye on it, they are going inside to where the actual flower is and get that nectar out of there. And when they do, they've basically ruined the fig. You might want, if you've got an ant problem there, squeeze your fig and break it at the end before you take a bite, because you may have numerous ants on the inside of it. That is the major pest. Okay. Of course, you've got the problem with birds. Yeah. And if a bird pecks it and injures it and opens it up, even if the eye is closed, the ants will take advantage of the entrance. Thrashers in the garden, robins and mockingbirds all seem to be very fond of figs.
Wow. So what do you do for that? Maybe netting of some sort? Or? I just let them have their way.
I don't net.
Okay.
Did for years and fought the plants that I had netted, blueberries or figs or thing like that. Most of these shrubs or small trees grow rapidly. And if you've got the netting on there and you have it in contact with the plant is likely to grow through it.
Okay.
And that gives you a problem in taking it loose. Some people net here that grow in a tree form. Okay. We mostly have a bush form the way it comes up.
Mr. Bill, appreciate that good information about figs. Don't you think so?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you much. Appreciate that.
I just learned some stuff I didn't know.
We're here in the garden, and we've noticed that there's holes in the leaves on our okra. And that's from Japanese beetles. We're going to try to get rid of the Japanese beetles by mixing up some soap water. What happens here is you put a little soap, dishwashing soap, in some water, and you mix it up just a little bit for a soapy solution. And then you get your Japanese beetles and you drop them in here, and this will eliminate the hormone that's present from them so that other Japanese beetles will not want to be attracted to this area. So you just take your soap, then you're going to find your beetles, pick them off, and drop them in the soap. And this will take care of them by picking them off and putting them in this solution.
All right, this is our Q&A session. Mr. Bill, you jump in there and help us out, okay?
Okay.
All right, here's our first viewer email. How do you know when to pick figs? And guess what? We just happen to have a fig expert
I hear you.
sitting here today. So, Mr. Bill, how do you know when to pick the figs?
Well, the figs will give you warning to begin
Give you a
with.
warning.
The figs stay on the plant as a hard green, fairly small object for an excruciating amount of time, and all of a sudden you will see it change color. Even if it is not a dark fig, it will get lighter green, and it will in about 3 days double in size, and then it's going to droop. Now, some figs, the instant it droops, it's ready, and you'll have to go by experience on what your variety is, because a variety like LSU Purple is an excellent fig, but it wants to stay on the vine or the bush one more day after it has drooped. Well, you've got a problem then. That gives the birds an extra day a shot at it.
Right.
But it does happen, and so when it has drooped, it is ready to be picked. You can set it out at home. It's not going to get any sweeter in the kitchen, but it will get softer and more tasteful if you pick it like he did his tomatoes.
That's right.
Pick it, take it inside, and leave it in something like in the kitchen where the temperature is steady.
Okay. All right, that sounds good to me. All right, so here's our next viewer email. I have a puzzling thing growing in my mulch. What is it, and what do I need to do about it? And this is from Vanice. As you can see there on the screen, this is what you call bird nest fungus. Because if you look at it, see the little cups? Like little nests, okay? And it actually looks like little eggs in the nest.
Yeah, it really does.
Okay, but it's just living off of organic substrate. That's all it's doing. Okay, it's just a fungus. What you can do is just stir up the little nest, the little fungus, or you can add more organic mulches to it. Okay, and it'll work. There's no need to spray a fungicide or anything like that. Just get out a rake it, fluff it up, add some more organic mulch to it. It'll be fine.
Okay.
It's just living off organic material that's in the soil. So it's not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
All right?
Probably tells you the fact you got good organic material.
It does do that. That's good. So I hope that helps you out, Ms. Vanice. All right, here's our next viewer email. My fig tree has gotten too tall and I want to cut it back. When is the best time to prune fig trees? And this is from Steve. So Mr. Bill, he wants to know when is the best time to prune his fig tree because it's gotten too big. And we hear that a lot at the office.
Right. Well, if you're going to do extensive pruning, the recommendation on it is to prune along about the latter part of March.
Okay.
That's for heavy pruning. The reason for waiting to the spring is we get some late bad weather. We get an ice storm or something like that, and you don't want to, the sap's already rising in the fig, and you don't want to injure the tree severely. When you are pruning, and you can prune it to a tree form, a lady told me over at one of the seminars that I was crazy that figs grew to a tree form. In our area, they only grow to a tree form with extensive pruning.
Okay. It's good to know.
But you can cut the fig back as severely as you want to and not damage the next year's crop.
Wow.
I have a friend who had big figs across the back of her lot, but they were on the other side of the property line, but they shared them, you know how it is. And they sold the house, and the new owner went in there and cut every fig tree down to about 9 inches.
Wow.
And then put a fence up, a wooden fence. And I said, well, don't worry about it. She said, why? I said, you'll be picking figs over the fence before the summer's over. And she basically told me I was crazy. Everybody knows that anyway. And the fig trees grew approximately 8 feet from that root system because it had a good root system down, and it was an established tree, and it'll grow 8 to 10 feet sometimes. You might want to pinch the tops out to make the bush out.
All right. Good stuff. All right, Mr. Tom, Mr. Bill, we're out of time. All right. Remember, we love to hear from you. Send us an email or letter. The email address is familyplot@wkno.org, and the mailing address is Family Plot, 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee 38016. Or you can go online to familyplotgarden.com. That's all we have time for today. You can find out more about the things we talked about on today's show on familyplotgarden.com. We also have our past shows if you want to see one again. Thanks for watching. I'm Chris Cooper. Be sure to join us next week for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by Good Winds Landscape and Garden Center in Germantown since 1943 and continuing to offer its plants for successful gardening with 7 greenhouses and 3 acres of plants, plus comprehensive landscape services. International Paper Foundation, the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.